Hello, everybody!
Turn this up in our headphones, Charles.
Ooh, okay, turning it up. Hello, everybody, one and all. Welcome to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. My name is Charles, and with me today, as always, is my lifelong friend and co-host, Dylan.
I'm ready to talk some fantasy with my friends, Charles.
Yes, we use the plural friends again today, everyone, because we have a very special episode prepared. We have, returning to the podcast, is our good friend and fantasy blogger, book reviewer over at the Book in Hand blog. We have Sam. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show.
No, it's really good to be back on the show. So, yeah, hi.
Hello, Sam is going to recommend some fantasy books for us today, but before we get into that, I just want people to know that they can find Sam over at thebookinhand.com. It's a tremendous blog where she's read all kinds of speculative fiction novels, and she's left her comments there, and then she has a terrific presence over on Twitter as well that you definitely do not want to miss at the Book in Hand blog. Did I miss anything, Sam? Is there anything else we need to mention before we get going?
No, I think you covered it all. The blog and then Twitter. But that's about it.
Yes.
You got an Insta too, right, Sam?
Yeah, I've not posted in a while, though. So
They should still follow you.
It'll be so exciting when you do post, though, and people aren't going to want to miss that.
Yeah, your return.
Instagram too.
Awesome. Well, Sam, we're super excited to have you back. Last time you were here, we were talking The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, which was so much fun, and we've just been waiting for that moment to have you back, so we're super glad you're here. And as I understand it, you've prepared a nice little list of books for us to talk about.
Yeah, I've got 5, but no doubt I will end up going over the 5. And
Fantastic. Well, whenever you're ready, Sam, these are books recommendations from Sam Book in Hand over at the Book in Hand blog. Sam, where are we starting?
I'm going to start with the first one that popped into my head when I thought about which ones I was going to do, and that is We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. So I don't know if you've read it. Have you?
No, we have not.
We've had it recommended to us. I think we had an exchange with Mike Shackle, a brief one on Twitter at one point. He seems really nice.
He is a really cool dude, and he's always engaging on Twitter, which is always really good. I feel like you will almost enjoy the books more when you actually get to chat to the authors and stuff. But yeah. No, Dead is just such a good book. Like, it's one of those that just doesn't stop. Like, it just goes and goes and goes, and it's, I don't know, it's probably like the first one I experienced, which was done over such a short time period. Yet so much happened, but none of it felt like it was out of place and done too quickly because the way it was done. Have you ever watched 24?
Yes.
A little bit.
Dylan.
Dylan, watch 24,
Just
Dylan.
a little,
what are you
just
doing?
a little. Yeah, no, I mean, Jack Bauer, right?
Yeah. But it's based over like the 24 hours, isn't it? So you get like that feeling of like the real rush of it. Whereas We Are the Dead is not quite 24 hours, but like over such a short period than your usual epic fantasies, which can be years, months, whatever. And it was probably, the first book like that I actually read and experienced to be such a rush and have such a, prominent need to keep moving and for time to be constantly moving. So yeah, I think I watched a masterclass with Dan Brown, which the masterclasses are actually really good. And he was saying how it is creating that need that what thrillers have, where there is constant time going and you need to keep going. And I think it's the first time I kind of saw that in fantasy, and it's such a rush of an experience to read. So I think that's why it always stands out, because it's short period, it's so fast paced, it's so action filled, and it's got stupidly good characters in it. And yeah, it just you constantly need the next book. And I was lucky enough to read it. When I read it, I got the arc for the next book, so I read them both back to back. And Mike actually wrote to me being like, I think you're the first person who's read them back to back. Like, what was it like? Right. A ride.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. So it sounds like it's fantasy, but with almost thriller pacing to it, and it just moves real quick. That's the biggest highlight, and that's so cool. As someone who's been accused of being hasty before, I've always loved those really fast-paced books. It makes me think of like the Poppy Wars one I really like that, even though the time frame's longer. So it's cool to think of fantasy in this condensed setting, Sam.
Well, that's it. I think that's what I'd not seen before. Like, obviously, when thrillers get written, there's that impending fact that time's going to run out. They have a countdown, and you don't really as much in fantasy. There's always like the lingering doom, the big evil. But like in We Are the Dead, there is a war. They've been invaded, and like it's then like the aftermath of that and how this place is dealing with it, but like different people from different places and how that all goes in. And it is just an outstanding book. Obviously, it's not the only reason to read it. It's not just because of the pacing. It excels in every other area as well. But yeah, it's definitely one to check out, that one.
That's awesome. And, I'm going to make a little connection here. I'm perusing Goodreads, and who do I see but Will Gwyn over at the Brothers Gwyn, whose father, John Gwyn, wrote Shadow of the Gods, which we all discussed, Sam Book in Hand and us, over on an earlier episode here. And he pretty much, according to his Goodreads review, rated it, 5 out of 5 stars, and said one of the best debuts I've had the pleasure to read. And you can go ahead and check out his review on Goodreads and follow him on Twitter and check out the Brothers Gwyn and all that. But it's nice to see that it's all kind of within the family. And if Sam likes it and Will Gwyn likes it, what more endorsement do you need? I'm excited to try it because I love like action-paced, thrilling, exciting stories, so you don't need much more to sell me on this one.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Yeah, like you said, on Goodreads you can see straight away we've got Will Gwyn liking it. Patrick has reviewed it 4.5 out of 5. Nick Borelli, Fancy Addict, David, who is a good friend of so many people in our community, have all raved about it. And I feel like if that many people are saying it's good, then you could pretty much have to read it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we're missing out, Dylan.
I do too. So I'm looking at the Amazon page over here and seeing it says, with all the grit of Joe Abercrombie, Mark Lawrence, and Ed McDonald. Ed McDonald's Blackwing, which we keep. I've been bringing that one up a lot. So a lot of these grimdark writers get in shout outs. It says this is fantasy with the sharpest of edges. And then Glenn Cook, the author of The Black Company, which you've read, Charles, another grimdark feeling series, said the next Game of Thrones about this. And to hear epic the phrase epic fantasy is getting tossed around on here, and I'm seeing these grimdark elements. I'm hearing you, Sam, say the pacing's great and stupidly good characters. I mean, what more could we possibly need from a series that all of this happening? I mean, Charles, you're the one who controls the schedule over here, but I know it's packed. I know it's packed, so I don't want pressure. But I just, that's you're coming in hot there, Sam, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start with a big one. You have to move it up the schedule. I think Will Gwyn actually moved it up his schedule as well.
Well, you're giving us all real FOMO vibes here, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one. I see all of our friends reviewing it, reading it, loving it, comparing it to authors we've read and loved. So between all of that, it's like, how could we not get into it?
Yeah.
All right, so that's We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. Definitely one, Dylan, that's crawling up our TBR.
Yeah. for sure.
Well, we still have at least 4 more to go, maybe more.
Yeah. Sam, how are you going to follow that one up?
When I was as well, I was like, I'm gonna have to do a few. I'll do a few that are like young adult. I'll go do a bit of this, and then by the end of it, I was like, most of these are kind of a little bit in the epic variety. So it was like, God damn it! But no, so I'll go down my list, and my next one on the list is a Voice of War, and that is by Zach Park.
Okay.
Really, really. This, and that's not how you pronounce his name. But yeah, War is just, it's the first book of the Threadlight book. It was one of the self-published fantasy blog off finalists in 2020.
Nice.
And it's so good. So I listened to Voice of War, the audiobook, and I think it's easily one of the best audiobooks I've listened to. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's really good because his voice is just so deep and like gravelly. I can't remember who. Do you know Alex from Blog Spells? He said it reminds him. Oh God, what was his name now? From Game of Thrones, who was Daenerys' little side man.
Jorah?
Yes, said it sounds like him.
Oh, that's a great voice.
The guy who narrates it is called Adam Gold. I don't think he's done too many fantasy books, but the man really should. And obviously this is about the book, and the book is great. I think the biggest thing that I loved about the book is the magic system and the characters, which usually, yes, are great to enjoy. And yeah, it's a really well-paced book. It's not too fast, but it doesn't feel slow either. It's one of those that you just read and you read and you read. And by the end of it, you're like, God, I'm 2/3 of the way through this book already. It is that easy to get lost in. A lot of people say it is very much like Brandon Sanderson. Now, I haven't actually read that much, so I couldn't really tell you on that one. But all I know is that when I read it, it is so good. And it's quite... I don't know. It's almost got a little darker element to it. It's not really dark, but it's so well written, and the main character has like an inner voice, alter ego. I don't really want to say too much because I really don't want to give away the book. And the way that is portrayed is just amazing, and continues on the second book as well. And then I'm trying to think.
That's awesome. Yeah, usually when people say they love the magic system, recommending Sanderson is not that far of a reach, so I can understand that.
I mean, I've not read... I read Mistborn honks ago, but I not tell you a single thing that happens in it. I read it that long ago. So that is on my list to reread, but everyone says, it's so much like Sanderson, and it's like, oh, that's really cool, because if I really like that, then surely I'm going to like Sanderson when I eventually read it. But
yeah,
it's epic fantasy, and the magic system, it's I don't even know how to explain it because it's just that magical. That's such a cliche and sounds really cool. But no, that's definitely one to read, and it has reasons why it got so far in the competition with so many other books contending for the spots as well. That's
awesome to hear. Yeah, and it seemed, it's like a 12.5-hour audiobook. That's not so bad. That's very tempting. Right? We're big audiobook fans over here on FTF. We listen to audiobooks a lot, so that alone has me curious enough just to pick it up for my next drive or something.
It's not long at all, and it's just so. I really hope you guys have the same narrator as what the British one has, because you guys have different narrators. So me and David from Book Meanderings are always saying because Painkiller is done by 2 different people. So I think
Oh, really?
So I think American is, I want to say what?
Nick Podell.
Nick Podell. And then mine is Rupert Degas.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you guys get different narrators to what we get in the UK. And sometimes I feel sorry for you because like Priest of Bones and the War of the Throne Roses, I think. I can't remember it now. Has a really outstanding narrator. And then I recommended it to so many people and they were like, that's not their narrator. I'm like, oh. Still a great book. Still,
Yeah.
but completely different narrator.
Right.
In case you didn't know that, that's a fun fact for you.
Interesting. We'll have to
Yeah.
double check then.
Yeah, well, I love Nick Podell, by the way. So I don't. It sounds like you're really. Are you audiobooking Wise Man's Fear? I know you're reading that right now, Sam.
First listen, I weren't a huge fan, but I'd listened to it when I just started audiobooks. So I was getting into the groove of what I like to listen to. But now when I listen to it, I could just listen to it for hours. Like,
that's awesome.
That's good to hear when your audiobook is like 40 plus hours long.
When I first saw the amount of time in it, I was like, I'm never going to finish it because you're just going to have an hour here, an hour there.
Yeah.
I don't even think halfway through it, and I've been listening to it for ages.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, Sam, going back to Voice of War here, I'm looking at here. First off, Zach, another guy that we've had exchanges with on Twitter, extremely nice. And he is, it seems like so self-published, SPIFFPO Award finalist from last year then. And Charles and I have been really wanting to get more into self-published books here. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a SPIFFPO judge this time around. So I'm hoping to be contributing to all this. And, Charles and I will say like a year and a half ago, I guess, is it at this point, Charles, when we first started?
No, it's like a year and a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So either way, we have been, not that long ago, we were just like going to bestfantasybooks.com, I think it was called, to find what books we were going to read next. And we've been really enjoying getting more involved with self-published books. And it sounds like Zach is one of the folks really leading the way in this great self-published fantasy. And I think he did come up, Charles, in that way back. We did book recommendations for fans of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And I believe that one of the first recommendations we got on that episode was Voice of War by Zach Argyle. So a lot of amazing recommendations, and we've got accolades here with like the SPIFFPO finalist stuff going on, Sam. So I'm excited. It sounds like hard magic system, epic fantasy, a young female protagonist.
Yeah, it's got a lot of really great attributes to it. Like I said, the magic is really good. I don't want to explain the magic because I feel like the more you learn as you read, it just becomes more like awe-inspiring. And paired with the world building, like we all know, I'm not a huge world building, lover. I like it when it's there, but Zach's world building is really, really good, and it kind of like drifts back to like really old school fantasy with like whimsical and really, this sounds really stupid, but magical elements. Like it's got chroma walls, and there's so much thought that's gone into it and imagination that it's just really good to be an experience. But it's all written so well into the writing, like it's exposition of trees and forests and wolves, like it's all shown to you. I feel like I just hit on world building every time I talk to you guys.
Yeah, well, we call it world building for world building's sake. Yeah, when it's done well, we love it. But sometimes people get very excited about the worlds they build, and it can detract from the narrative. But it sounds like that couldn't be more not the case with Voice of War. So I'm super excited to check that one out. I believe, Dylan, you're right. Both of these so far, We Are the Dead and Voice of War, have been recommended to us through our recommendation series before. Yeah. So, I mean, we're getting to when things come up over and over again, you got to start paying a little bit more attention, being like, okay, stuff is rising to the top now.
Yeah, these are the ones that should be jumping the queues. Getting further.
Well, we're glad you're here, Sam, to help us out with getting these in order. And man, already feel like we need to rush 2 of these, and then we've got several more to go still. Sam, what's the next one we're gonna have to try and squeeze into our immediate schedule?
Okay, well, we'll speed through some of these. So we've got Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow.
Oh yes.
Have we read it?
I remember your review of that, and I was literally just looking at it in a bookstore and reading like the just getting a sense for the prose. It's lyrical. Very sorry. This is your recommendation, Sam. I just remember your review of it, and I was like, I have to read this because of the themes and stuff that you talked about. But I'll let you talk about it. That's what convinced me.
I'll do you know what I'll do? I'll use my my actual review that I did and the few things you can expect from the book. And like you said, Stroke, it is written so well. It is just really lush writing. It's really powerful, and it's got a lot of themes in it that need addressing or are being addressed, and it's really great to see it. Again, it's another audiobook that has a really fab narrator, and I think the characters are a really good strong point for it. It's a trio of sisters, and they're all obviously witches, and they've all got their different reasonings. And I think one of the biggest thing is when you've got groups of sisters and siblings, it's really hard to distinguish between the characters when you're actually reading them. Whereas in Once and Future Witches, they are really distinguishable. So you get a feel for them a lot better. But yeah, themes wise, it's got family, sisterhood, love, forgiveness. It's got a lot more kind of, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just got a lot of themes that are being addressed, and it is really, really good. And it's a historical setting, which I always kind of want to read, but then for some reason they always fall down my list when it actually comes to choosing my next read, because that's exactly what I did with this one as well. Kind of looked at it and was like, I'll read it later. And then one day it was just like, do you know what? I'm going to read this book. And I'm really so glad I read it, because it's such a fab book. And I think everyone should definitely give it a try, because like I said, it's got such nice writing, it's got such great characters, it's a historical setting, so it ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people, I think.
That's so exciting, Sam. Yeah, the things that stuck out to me most when I was reading your reviews, the sisterhood, which it feels like is not explored as frequently as might be awesome in fantasy to get more of that, because we get so much. I feel like brotherhood is explored a lot. I mean, that has a very well established I guess I don't know, theme. Just we've seen a lot of that in well established theme in a lot of fantasy. I feel like sisterhood we could get more of. We got a little bit there in when we did Weird Sisters over with fiction fans, Charles, but
we did,
which was also Three Witches, which is interesting. And then this other bit of forgiveness, which I feel like forgiveness is, it seems like the kind of thing that would be explored all the time in fantasy, but it feels like we're doing a lot more vengeance than forgiveness these days in the genre. So I was really excited seeing forgiveness, which is such an important part of life and therefore such an interesting theme to explore.
Yeah, I think, like you said, kind of vengeance is, I don't want to say easier to write, because writing is not easy, but forgiveness is, I feel like it's harder to build the tension that you get from big stories when you're just going to forgive someone come the end of it. But obviously, especially in this book, you've got the reasonings, what's led someone to obviously need forgiving, why they are forgiving them, and the decisions that come around from that. And yeah, no, it's just one of those really, one of my notes on it was just, it's just winding and wonderful. It's got such a nice flow, and it has ups and downs and ups and downs. And like I said, Sisterhood of Forgiveness, it's just really great. The setting's really great. The characters are really great. It's genuinely just a really good book. One that I think, a lot of people should read.
Yeah, it seems like it's a recent release, right? I see October 2020, so it's been out for not that long. The cover is gorgeous too, and I'm seeing people like NPR was talking about it, and like every major bookstore's talking about it. So it seemed like it really came out with a strong release, and everyone's speaking so highly of it. And Dylan's mentioning all of these themes that sound very interesting to me as well. So I don't know. It just seems like a different pace than what we have been going at reading things like Joe Abercrombie and Wheel of Time and all of that. It just seems like a totally different kind of narrative. And then that to me is very enticing.
I think that's why I enjoyed it so much when I read it as well, because when you read as kind of back to back as what bloggers do, it was just such a nice, refreshing, different book than what you usually read. It still has all your elements of fantasy and so much more. So yeah, no, definitely worth making it to the list.
Awesome.
And that's a book that I'm going to have to say as well. Don't know if you've read it, The Bear and the Nightingale.
I've heard of it, but not read it. Yeah, Baron the Nightingale. Tell us about it, Sam.
It's another book that I read, and it is like, I think I wrote in my review, I don't have anything written because I didn't literally think of it until now. It's like a palate cleanser book. So I read it off like a big epic, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to listen to that. And it was one of those books that you were staying up all night to read it. Like,
wow.
You just didn't stop because it's one of those books as well that gets described a lot, and I described it this way myself, as a incredibly atmospheric book. You're there. You were literally in the pages with the book. There is not often that while you still feel the world building and stuff, you don't actually feel everything that is in the book, and that is what The Bear and the Nightingale does. It's 3 books. But yeah, I've not read the other ones because I said I want to wait a little bit and then have it again as like almost like another palate cleanser, so I can just be in awe of it.
Yeah.
And it's another one that Will Gwyn raved about as well, I think, because I tried to get his brother to read it, and he was like, I thought it was great too.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. That's another good shaking up the TBR, a good palate cleanser. We have dedicated ourselves to reading like all of Wheel of Time, all the First Lost stuff. So we are going to be in desperate need of palate cleansers along the way. So this one sounds particularly striking to me, Dylan, as one that we could use to kind of shake things up every once in a while.
Yeah, somewhere in between like books 10 and 11 of Wheel of Time, we definitely might be looking for a palate cleanser right around then. But
right.
It's Sam, really appreciate it, because I can tell just looking at it, I've seen this like fairy tale sort of feel to it, and
Russian folklore, like kind of mythology, and I want to say historical because of the time it's set, but it hasn't really got much emphasis on that. It's more the magic and the whimsical. And I don't know if you ever watched Spiderwick Chronicles, the film.
No, never.
Guys, really fun.
I'm familiar with this.
You're out of our wheelhouse all day today, Sam.
I'm familiar with the story, but no.
Well, we're going to say it gives me similar vibes to that. Like all these, not everyone accepts that these kind of mythical creatures exist, whereas the main character is like, no, they're definitely there. And it's the kind of the crossover between people understanding like the old folklores and coming into new religions and kind of forgetting the old ones and the repercussions of doing that in like a really cool, magical, atmospheric setting. But that was a spontaneous one that came out from the Once and Future Witches somehow. But yeah, another one to read. Now, I could go on for ages, but I'm conscious that I do waffle like a pro. So I'm going to end it on, and I'm going to say you're not going to be surprised by the author, but you never know. The Waking Fire by Anthony Ryan.
The Waking Fire.
Oh, yeah. I've only read Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan, but I love Bloodsong.
I mean, Bloodsong is an absolutely incredible book, so it's a good read. Although saying that,
we know you're a huge fan of Anthony Ryan, always raving about his work. I think you mentioned him too on our John Gwynn episode. Is kind of like in your crew of like must read immediately authors.
Those two
are gonna love it.
My list of
who
I read all the time. But yeah, the Waking Fire is. Do you know when you read a book like say you read Bloodsong, you're like, wow, this is a really good book, and then you're like, I'm gonna read more of this author, and you end up getting around to it. It's like, damn, this guy really upped his game in this one. Like you was doing really well before, and then you've put this one out, and you've just gone even higher in the expectations. And so, The Waking Fire, a little bit about it is, it's got dragons, it's epic fantasy. I think I talked to Zach about this one, and he was like, it's adventure mixed with Indiana Jones with dragons. And it's so rough and tumble and gritty, and it's based around dragon blood. So while the dragons are like prominent in the story of the world, it's actually their blood that is your biggest kind of attribute that is written about. So the blood is only certain people can digest and ingest the blood, and it gives them like certain powers. So there's different types of dragons: green, red, blue, black, and then they go on the hunt for like an infamous kind of white dragon. And it's the story of them on this adventure to try and find out this thing, among various other things. But Anthony does incredible characterizations. So he's got so many leads, and they're so well written. And I always speak to Eleni about these. Trin is also a fan of them, and I'm pretty sure it's got some absolutely brilliant Goodreads reviews as well.
Absolutely. I'm reading here, I see Mark Lawrence popped in and said, Anthony Ryan can write. In fact, he's annoyingly good. Which is like such a great compliment where, you know, you read something and you almost like feel that twang of jealousy or like, dang, how could he write something so good? You know, that's like a high compliment. And coming from someone like Mark Lawrence, who, you know, friend of the show, we're a big fan of his work, it speaks highly to Anthony Ryan for sure. I have never read an Anthony Ryan book, but his books have kept coming up and up and up in our recommendations. And I know, Dylan, you've been championing the books that you've read by Anthony Ryan. So I need to get on this train. I don't know what I'm doing.
Anthony Ryan was one of those authors as well there where I'd read Bloodsong, and then whenever someone's like, oh, who are your favorite 3 authors? He was straight on the list, and I'd read one of his books.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good book to say that's the set point, one book, and then he's on favorites list straight away.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
That's incredible. And I get it too, because I love Bloodsong. It's one of I think I recommended it on that. We did that book recommendations for fans of King Killer, Charles, and Bloodsong was the one that I want to make sure to mention because it's got this kind of telling a story to a chronicler type feel to it, and of a legendary person, and it starts at the point of being not fallen completely from grace, but definitely some of those elements there, and looking back on their history. It's such an incredible book, an incredible story. And Sam, I hear you talking about growth from that point with Anthony Ryan, which is, you know, we love seeing authors grow as they keep writing, and something that we talk about that with Abercrombie, with Sanderson, and all sorts of folks. And just hear that Anthony Ryan's substantially improving from what I read in Bloodsong is great to hear, and so exciting.
And each book in the series gets more and more and better and better. It's like a lot of the books are generally loved as the series as well, not just like the individual books. So it's always really hard to distinguish. She's like, oh, I recommend this book. It's like I contemplated putting Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas on the list. I talked to you about it before. It's obviously a young adult. It's a love-hate book. Some people absolutely hate it. Some people really love it. And I feel like, it's a book that you can recommend, but as a whole series is better. And I think that's the case for a lot of these. Although saying that, Bloodsong is it's standalone. It's in its own right. And he improves, or at least I think he improves a lot in the Draconis Memoria books as well. Just in everything. Like it's like he's kind of fine-tuned his characters, so he knows what kind of characters to put where, what crazy elements to put in. Like there's pretty much in, I want to say the second or the third book, which isn't really a spoiler, but hell, like a prison city. So you just that how that's written into fantasy. That's one thing this series does so well. It throws in so many different elements that you don't normally put together and just works it.
Wow.
Like just it's jaw-droppingly good. And there are tons of reviews.
Jaw-droppingly good. You gotta get that that would be great as like a blurb. You gotta get that from you, Sam.
Yeah, we gotta send that over to
books.
Anthony Ryan.
Jaw-droppingly good. I like that.
In the tweet when we share this.
Yeah.
There you go.
But
That's awesome. The Waking Fire by Anthony Ryan. Yeah, Anthony Ryan's just one of those authors I gotta get on my reading pile, you know? It's been too long. Too many people have recommended him, much like every other book in this list so far. I don't read enough. That's what I'm coming to realize. I need to read more.
some curveballs out there. I feel like you've heard ones I've thrown out so far. But yeah, I think there are just so many books to recommend. Like, I've recently read the Priest of Lies books and all the series up to present of the War for the Rose Throne, and they're another book that is just exceptional. Like, Peter McLean is stupidly good. Like, that's another one. So we'll throw that in as a recommendation, but I won't go too much into it because, again, could talk forever. Would be on.
This is a podcast, Sam. You know that talking is what we invited you here to do. We're very excited to hear it. We're happy when you talk a lot. You know that, right?
So there's a line, and you never know. Some people just cross it. I cross that line.
No, you're well on the right side of that line, Sam.
But yeah, well, then we'll throw Priest of Lies, The War of the Roses in there. It's got Peaky Blinders vibes, which a lot of people have said, but it's so good. The main character is too good not to read, so you have to read that one as well. But
I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan, so that's good to hear.
Wow.
Oh, then you're going to have to read then.
Yeah, I love the Peaky Blinders.
I was told that I could pull off Peaky Blinders' hair at one point. Does that? I haven't watched the show, but it's like
you're close.
like,
you have a less exaggerated version of a
Right.
Peaky Blinders haircut.
right? They do like the bangs or something. Is that,
I feel like we're doing injustice by not showing them your Peaky Blinders hair.
The world is missing out. Dylan will find a way, I'm sure, of letting people know.
yeah, I always do. So, all right, well, Peaky Blinders style book. I don't really. Yeah, Sam, you're throwing a bunch of references that are going way over my head. But I know of Peaky Blinders. It's like, right?
Yep,
It's
organized
mystery or
crime,
something? Is it
gangster.
mystery, yeah.
No, it's gangster stuff. Yeah, it's like
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's gangsters. There's no other way to pin it. They-
You can't swing it as a mystery just to make me feel good
No.
about myself.
try, swing and a miss. No,
No.
it is obviously the main character comes back from fighting in a really grueling war, which kind of gave me like Vietnam War vibes, like just so brutal, so kind of crazy. And he comes back to his hometown, and he was the gang member, so then it's him kind of building his organization back up, but then it literally spreads and grows into so much more that you forget the Peaky Blinders kind of origins, and it becomes so much more. And it's just a really great book. I want to say it's written in like one sole point of view, like it's varies from fantasy, whereas you have loads of points of view to just the one singular one. Yet it's written in a way that you still manage to find and love all the other side characters as well, which I feel is quite a skill to have when it's done purely from his point of view and his experiences. So that is a really
single point of view, did you say, Sam?
Yeah, just his. I want to say the name. I want to say it's Thomas, but mine has gone.
Yeah,
completely
Thomas Piety, Piety.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, my internet really is apparently using all its bandwidth right now with this call, and it's not letting me load anything.
Trying to transmit all your book reviews across the pond to us here.
But yeah, and then I was going to say Snakewood, which by saying Snakewood, I'm now going to say Snakewood. And that one is by Adrian Selby. And it's a very unique book. And I think it's another Marmite book, if you will. I think people either really enjoy it or just can't get into it. But I really enjoyed it when I had it. Now, might say this wrong, the epistolary, is it? Where the book is kind of like from different accounts of different people. So
yeah, that's a new word to me too, Sam. I'm learning all sorts of things during this. Epistolary?
I want to say that's, Google epistolary and then
I'm Googling it.
Google it.
Dylan's on the case.
of a literary, much like in Peaky Blinders, the well-noted mystery. I am on the case, and I it is of a literary work in the form of letters. So I guess it means that it's like a bunch of like letters written to
Yeah.
I'm
With Snakewood, it's done from, and obviously the narrator, who I won't say like who it is, and he talks through all these accounts of essentially what led to like the big events, and it's from, say, talking to someone who met him at this town, and then it's done through one of his own accounts, and then it's done through the accounts of like a couple of other people, but they're all not, some of them aren't his own, experiences of it. It's from done with someone else. So I think that's the riskiest thing about it, that people don't always like those kind of books, and they obviously there's time hops, there's bits of time jumps in them, but it is, once you've read it, it is such a good book. It is dark, it is gritty. Like there are points where I was just like, wow, okay, I was not expecting that. But then goes the complex, where it's got brotherhood in it, it's got like one of the most brilliant things, but it's got biological warfare in it, and but in the way that obviously we're used to it. So he's put a complete spin on biological warfare, and it's like they use them like poisons, and they have their own tolerances, and it's such a big part of how these people fight, and it is so good. But again, it's something that when you read it and get to know it, it's really, really unique and completely mind-blowing.
That's awesome. And I see like on Amazon, like, frequently bought together, Kings of the Wild is coming up by Nicholas Eames, which is on our imminent TBR.
Yeah, I read that a while ago. It's very Dungeons. Is it Dungeons and Dragons? I can't remember.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Like it satirizes isn't the right word, but like
I think the fact that there's just like a band of people is like is why they're being compared.
Yeah, it's
favorite bit in that book was when they're rallying everyone. I won't say more, spoiler, right? But the big. I'm all for a rallying speech.
Oh yeah,
so
that's a great scene.
Yeah. So when you read, like, wow, yeah, that's really good. And yeah, it's a funny book.
Yeah, I'm excited for Charles to get to read that one for the first time. I think Charles is very musical, and that whole one has a lot of those musical elements, bringing out the 70s band culture and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pumped for us to get into that. And I've heard back to Selby's work, I've heard really great things. We haven't gotten the chance to check his work out yet, but sounds like a lot of twists and turns and a very unique style to it.
They're all, I think all the books he's put out are linked as well. I speak to Dan about it. Dan, someone I follow on Twitter and speak to, is my go-to Selby expert because the books came out, I want to say Snakewood came out first, then Brother Red, then Winter Road. Yet they're all at different time frames, but they're in the same world. And I'm pretty sure he said to read it in order of publication, really, because there are huge twists in Snakewood that if you were to read Brother Red, you'd know the twist before you'd even started the book. Because of kind of, I'm not even going to say go into it because it was literally, I'm terrible, I will spoil it 100%. I have control over it. I really try to be discreet and try and do little half truths, but it never works. I spoiled Shawshank Redemption for my friends who'd never seen it. I spoiled something else. I think honestly, it wasn't that I'd call it a skill.
That's a tough one. We love Shawshank over here, so
we are Shawshank Redemption fans.
Yeah. But you're safe. Well, I guess not when we're recording, but you're in a safe place to talk Shawshank spoilers with us.
It was where you so mindlessly say what the plot of it is from start to finish, and it's just like, all right, so yeah, this happens. I'm like, oh, you've not watched it. I'm so sorry.
Oh boy, yeah, we have to be careful of that sometimes too. We try and make a point to distinct, but sometimes we just get too excited, and it sounds like
Yeah.
a series like Snakewood is just like too exciting to hold back.
Snakewood is, again, it's another one that's got so many twists in it. It's got really gruff, grizzled, bad characters. They've lived a hard life and they have that pessimistic outlook on everything, and it's always really good. I want to say it's Ed McDonald's book, Blackwing, that also has that really big pessimistic vibe, and it's such a fun to read because you get such morally grey characters from it that you don't know which way they'll swing in certain like encounters and battles and how they're going to react to stuff, and well, who's going to die. It's a big one. And
Yeah.
they're all really good, gritty, grim books.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We love gritty,
that's
grim books
something-
here.
Yeah, and you mentioned Blackwing, and it sounds like so. My experience with Blackwing is that it has that twisted cynicism, and like you're saying, there's humor to it, and it's kind of this almost this absurdity to the cynicism. It's something that Abercrombie does extremely well too, which is poke fun at human nature in a way that is in some ways really cynical, but also very funny. It's like this twisted dark humor, and it sounds like Selby is able to capture that as well.
Yeah, really well as well. I want to say Snakewood was his debut, and it's another one of those debuts that you're like, you have to have been writing for years. There must be so many books that you've written and just not published, because for this to be your first one going out is just mind blowing.
Wow, high praise.
That's awesome.
Indeed, yeah.
But like I said, it's a different read, and it's an ambitious and risky debut, but in my eyes, totally paid off. But again, it's some people struggle to get into it, but you can't win them all.
Right. I don't know. Sometimes when you get into these like really gritty, pessimistic books, you tend to lose a couple readers, and that's okay. For me, those are signs that, like, you know what, this might actually be a kind of to my taste when I see some people get, turned away by either the violence or the like nihilism of it. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, now I'm gonna... yeah, it's almost. You almost don't trust a book that has just nothing but perfect reviews. Like, you can't be that good. Like,
well said.
And I want to. Traveling Cloak, who said this, he was like, he's almost harsher on books like that, where they just get such rave receptions that you almost read them looking for a flaw, just to be like, no, you can't be this perfect. Something has to be lacking in this book. But they do happen. They just, you don't want to feel like you're just following the tribe. And on that book.
And something that tries to please all the people all the time. It's like, okay, what are you going to do that's different and going to stick really well for me personally in my subjective taste as a reader? And it's like, I think that there's value to these things that have these huge mass appeal and everyone at least likes. And then for me, it tends to be this more controversial stuff that I'll latch onto as like, but this one, that tends to be my favorite. Like Kingkiller and stuff comes up, and that's one of the most contentious series out there. But the people like me who love it, they'll love it because the things that are making other people hate it are things that are making it different and making it something that is fitting for, what I'm looking for. And Charles, and I know you're loving it too, Sam. So that's always great to hear.
Can't wait to finish it. But then it's one of those books as well. You're like, I don't want to finish it. I just want to keep going through.
I know.
You can tell me stories all day long, and I just don't mind.
Yeah, sometimes you finish a book and you're like, what is life without this book going to be like? I don't know. I'm enjoying it right now.
When I finish it, I'm going to be like, so, books, anyone, because, it's such a well-written book.
Wow, that's awesome. And we're fortunate to have such a long list now, thanks to your visit here today. I haven't read any of these, which is truly fantastic for me.
There is no control. It just going. One book leads to another, though.
We love it, Sam.
Snakewood leads to
One
Blackwing.
book leads to another. That's a great line.
One book always leads to another. But yeah, be my blurb of life. One book always leads to another. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I've give you enough already.
Well, we greatly appreciate it, Sam. This is a really impressive list here. These are ones that many of them have come across our desk already multiple times. Our fictional FTF desk, which is basically Twitter.
Just.
But no, we greatly appreciate you coming back, returning to the show. It's always so much fun having you on. Door is always open. If you know, like we said, one book leads to another. I'm sure we'll read one of these books someday, and one Sam Book in Hand collab will lead to another one. That's my hope.
You'll get sick of me, promise.
Oh no!
I've been able to stick around with Dylan for 20 years. I wouldn't worry about it so much.
He's great. He's very patient, a lot of tolerance. I mean, you don't need more evidence than 20 plus years of dealing with me. So, Sam, he could never get sick of you. I know. Well, neither of us will ever get sick of you. Yeah.
Well,
oh God, Charles. It's funny.
Sam, is there anything you'd like the people to know about what you have going on before we play some of that outro music?
Ooh, no, I think the only thing coming up for me is I've read Kings and Demons by Marcus Lee, and I'll be doing a blog tour with that in mid to late July kind of region. I want to say it's like the 25th it starts. But yeah, so watch out for that.
Fantastic. That is something we will all look forward to, guys. Check out the Book in Hand blog. Check out Sam on Twitter at the Book in Hand with an underscore there. She goes by Sam Book in Hand. So definitely check all of that out. You will not.
And that Insta.
Yes, Instagram, of course. Guys, when that next post drops, it's going to be big and you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, that's the Book in Hand underscore again on Instagram. So, yeah, big post may or may not be coming up. I'm not going to make guarantees on behalf of Sam.
Of course, now I'm going to get my new theme stuff. So that's essentially the pause on it. I was like, well, that theme's really wintry. I was like, we're not in winter anymore. It's summertime.
Yeah.
My
you
game.
take great pictures. I mean, I've been liking them. I just, they're awesome. I'm loving this.
It's really fun. I never thought book photography would be that fun, but it's quite good. But yeah, once I've got it done, I'll post another one soon. So you've put the expectation out there. That one's gonna come now, guys.
Well, no rush, no pressure. I just know it's gonna be great when it's ready. You can't rush these things. And your book photography is excellent. Like I'm just on your blog as well. It's like, man, this looks like really good. You have a really nice aesthetic that you've managed to capture on your blog. So well done.
Oh, thanks.
This Waking Fire picture is awesome.
You're making me go on it now because I'm trying to think which one. Oh, wow, you're really going
and
back.
We Are the Dead. Back to back.
Yeah, pretty much all of the books I've recommended will probably be on Instagram. Because I've got all of my Goldsboro books on there.
I see the Sword of Kaigen on there. That's one I've been trying to sneak onto our TBR.
Missed opportunity there. Guys, that book too. It's really.
Do you think that might make Charles cry? Because that one is one that we had recommended to us when the Thong of Emberlane and I were leading up #Mission Make Charles Cry, and. Yeah, what do you think? Does it have a chance to break Charles's gruff, bearded exterior here and make tears flow from his eyes for the first time ever from a fantasy novel? 20 plus.
Has he cried at a book?
No.
There's been tears that have swelled. Tears have swelled.
But never left his eyes. His eyes.
2 books made me actually cry. And that was obviously The Faithful and the Fallen, because that breaks you. And The Sword of Kaigen made me cry,
Wow.
like proper sniffle cry. Like, let me set some kind of backstory. I don't cry, like, period.
I'm hearing that only 2 all time is not
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, it's more than Charles, but
Yeah, I can watch the saddest films and a tear will not pass like my eyes. My other half's mum just says I must have a stone heart because they're like,
oh no.
Eat My Sister's Keeper, Notebook, I Am Legend, which I was going to say what would do it, but all the stuff like that, just, yeah, I don't know. I just don't cry. But yeah, those Sword of Kaigen threw the spanner in the works with that one. And I was just sat there reading it and I was like, what? No, okay, breathe. This didn't happen. Something's going to happen.
Awesome.
We're gonna do this. It's gonna backtrack. This isn't happening. And then yeah, it breaks you. So yeah.
Wow.
That's great to hear. I have been, we sometimes when we have a gap in our reading schedule, we'll pitch books to each other, and Sword of Kaigen's at the top of my to pitch to Dylan list. So just to hear your endorsement just further kind of solidifies that. I've been hearing that across the board. Like, this one will break you.
Yeah, it's just so unexpected. Like, I don't know if Dylan, have you read it?
No, I own it. I have a Kindle copy of it, but I heard Charles was thinking about pitching it. I want to give it I don't know. I've had to resist reading it because I'm trying to think I think it was the Fong of Emberlane that's over on Twitter. I think I won't mess up his Twitter handle, but I think he was recommending it and it did really well in Spiffbo. Did it win? I want to,
yeah. Now,
it did do really well. And I remember Levi Jacobs said, like, that's the reason it went so far was because no one could stop crying. That was his comment that he made to me about it. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think I started my review being like 4 stars and then just being like, actually, no, that's a lie, 4.5 stars. Like, it is pretty much a near perfect book. I want to say it only didn't get the full stars because I don't know, there was just something, possibly the pacing, I can't really recall, because it's almost like, I don't really know how to explain it. It's got like 2 climaxes. Like,
wow. Yeah,
the way you read it and you're like, wow, this is like epic peak, and then it has another one like towards the end as well. It's such a ride. It's such a good book. That's another one that Patrick has raved. Hamad, another reviewer who's got some really great ones, has said it. Eon has done it. Like, the reviews for that book are phenomenal. Like, you have to put that in.
Yeah.
That's
so it won Spiffbo 5. It looks like, if I'm
it won
correctly here.
That's great.
And yeah, that's high praise. It's one. So it says on, I guess that was Amazon from. I hope I'm saying their name right. JC Kong, who's another author, said the Poppy Wars darkness meets the last Airbender's elemental magic. I haven't been so emotionally moved by a book in a long while. So that's really, really high praise. And, we love the Poppy War by R.F. Kuang on here. So then seeing that plus the magic of Avatar: The Last Airbender is, I can only imagine how.
Elemental magic, but don't actually read that much of it. And it's probably my favorite magics as well. But yeah, there's not actually that many books that I've read with that magic system with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Elemental.
That's awesome. ML Wong's The Sword of Kaigen. I'm saying all those things right, but yeah. I own that. It sounds like Charles is going to pitch it. It's going to be a tough, I don't know, you're going to have to pitch 2 really amazing books for me, not to just pick that one.
Yeah, so. I'm working on it, but that one's a strong contender.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
Book as well now.
What's that?
I feel like it has an audio book as well now. It didn't at the time because it just had the paperback. But yeah, I want to say it has an audio book. You have to double check that one though. So you may go on up your timeline a bit faster with that.
Yeah,
that's a good tip.
I feel like audiobooks move up the TBR a little bit faster.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So much more than
for sure.
Agreed completely, Sam. I don't know where I'd be without audiobooks.
I've half the books that I've read if I hadn't made the transition to audiobooks, because it's easy to put it on while you're cleaning, cooking, just walking the dog, driving.
Right.
There is where you can't physically read, but you can still listen to it, and they're just brilliant.
For sure. Only so many hours in the day, and some of it has to be spent not reading. No. Unfortunately for all of us big fantasy fans here, some of it can't be spent reading, but that's when you throw on those headphones and listen to that audiobook.
Like, why would you not do something that you can do with reading at the same time? We're multitasking. Yeah. We're making prime use of our time.
Absolutely.
100% agree.
Oh my gosh, Sam! Thank you so much. That was. I'm glad we had that little tangent, because I've been that book's just been in my brain for a long time. So good to hear your thoughts on it. And it was your Instagram that attracted me to a beautiful book shot there over at the @bookinhand_ on Instagram. You can go take a look at it, see what inspired our little tangent there.
I'm slowly through it now, and I'm just like, there are so many books I could have recommended. I feel like I should throw out some just honorable mentions.
We're ready if you have them. I mean, no pressure. There's always another time to have you back on. But if you have some, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I won't go into detail. I'll just give you the names of the books. So purely from my Instagram, we've got Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. I don't know if you've heard of it, looked at it. That is another absolute epic fantasy. It is such a large cast. It is a huge book. And I feel like it's probably better for a well-versed fantasy reader, but still amazing. Reached Out by I don't want to pronounce it because I will just say it wrong, so I'm just going to leave it at Ring Shout and tell you to Google it. The Lycanius trilogy.
I've seen David and Lainey, right, talking about that one all the time.
We buddy read that, and it was such a ride. It is just so good. And then We Men of Ash and Shadow, which is another self-published book, which is, I want to say, in this year's self-published fantasy blog off. Sort of Kaigan, Race the Sands by Sarah Beth Durst. Now, that book is absolutely brilliant. Like, you have to read that book. That one has to make it on your list. Wow. I'm going to tell you guys to Google it and you guys to Goodreads it. Otherwise, I will go off on a waffle again when these are just honorable mentions.
Wow, that's high praise indeed.
They're the ones I've thrown out. Oh, and Stormblood. Hi, Jeremy. Zal? Again. Oh, sorry if people listen to this soon.
Yeah, it's tough. This is the tough part of the podcasting life, Sam.
You bloggers get to get away with it.
We just need to copy it off Goodreads and make sure we spell it right.
Yeah.
Pronunciation is huge.
It's a game changer.
It's an adventure. Yeah, trying to figure it out. We do our best over here, Sam. And I just want to say thank you so much for all these incredible recommendations. I see Charles writing all of them down over there.
Oh, yes.
We've got an amazing list. I'm sure our listeners have a bunch of, I'm sure their TBRs are crushing them right now with all these amazing books immediately being added to the top. So I think now most of them are probably just wondering which one to start with. But it sounds like they can't go wrong with all of these amazing recommendations that you gave there, Sam. It's so awesome. I'm really excited when we get into them.
Good. I'm glad there's been some good. I feel like there's good variety there. You've got a bit of everything.
I'm very impressed by the list, and I am super excited to dive into some of these, do a little bit more research, organize the TBR a little bit.
I'm sort of good. If you don't break, there is no hope.
Wow. Don't put that pressure on him, Sam, because Charles will just wall up again. Oh, I'm knocking my mic all over the place.
I mean, I think
excitement.
He's definitely just gonna lie to us. It's like, no, I didn't cry. I'm like, yeah.
He definitely cries after every book. Just like, oh no, it's like I welled up just a little bit, but
3 licks, there was tears, there was tissue, there was nose blowing.
Yeah.
You're a blubberer, really, aren't you? You're
Yeah, I had to call loved ones, I had to do all those things.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, I promise when we do get around to reading it, I'm saying when, because we will. I will be honest with my reaction, and who knows what we've got planned for it, but I definitely will let the world know what's coming up, because I'm looking forward to it. That, to me, that's high praise. When an author can invoke a strong emotional response, whatever kind it is, to me that means they're doing something right. Like, that's such an incredible feat to write something that gets someone worked up. So I mean, I don't need much more praise than that for a book.
Even for those of us with stone hearts.
Well said, indeed, Sam. Yeah, maybe there's hope for me yet,
I mean, crying's never great, but yeah, it's testament to a writer.
What do you mean? Crying's great.
Says the psychologist in training.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to get it out, I'm just waiting for maybe Sir Kaigan. Who knows what it will unlock inside of Charles if he's actually able to get tears out. So it's going to be big.
The proverbial.
Yeah. That's right, indeed. Sam, thank you so much for coming on and gracing us with your presence and your recommendations. I hope that Dylan and I can get on reading some of these soon so we can talk about them with you, share our feedback on them, because you've just gotten me excited about these books. So thank you for that energy and for your expertise today.
It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, guys. Again, The Book in Hand. We've said it all. Check it out. All the social media, the blog. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
And Dylan, anything else before I get the outro music going?
Well, just all the gratitude, sending it all Sam's way for coming on here. And we're so happy to have you. We're very excited for the next time we get to have you on. We just got to figure out what exactly the topic will be. But Sam, this is always such a pleasure. And recurring guest.
Yes.
Recurring guest, Sam. We don't have a ton of those yet, right, Charles?
I don't know. Levi Jacobs might be the only other one.
So you're in
great company.
You and Levi Jacobs. Yeah. So thanks, Sam. Yeah, we have a couple more. I think
we've been on other people's shows, but I don't know if they've.
Fiction fans and Sandra Gibbons, because they came on for Shadow and Bone, but you weren't.
Oh yeah, I wasn't there for those, but that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. Fiction fans, Sandra Gibbons. Okay, so you're in fantastic company.
Sam. This is about Sam, and Sam, thank you so much for being among the two people who have actually been on multiple episodes with both me and Charles there, and Levi. So anyway, thank you so much, Sam. Seriously, all jokes aside, this is so awesome, and we're pumped to get into these books. We're pumped to have the chance to talk to you, and already excited about the next stuff.
Amazing.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna get that outro music going now, so let's have it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to yet another very exciting episode of the Friends Talking Fantasy Podcast. This has been Charles Dillon and our very special recurring guest, Sam, from the Book in Hand blog. If you like what you heard today, first off, check out Sam Book in Hand. I don't know how many times we have to say it before you go ahead and check those out at the Book in Hand on social media, and then the Book in Hand blog. And then you can check out the FTF Podcast while you're at it over on Twitter at the FTF Podcast with the number 1 at the end, and then FTF Podcast over there on Instagram. And Dylan, if they want to support the show even further, they happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts. What can they do?
toss 5 stars to our podcast. Just find that Friends Talking Fantasy page on the Apple Podcast app. Scroll down past all those episodes until you start seeing stars. Once you're seeing stars, the optimal number of stars to click in order to support the show would be 5 of them. If you have a little bit of extra time and you want to write a review, then that's super helpful for a podcast like ours. But just listening is more than enough. Thank you.
Yes, guys, just listening. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate y'all for being here and for listening. And as always, go forth and conquer, friends.